Hello, hello, and welcome back to the Pure Nintendo podcast. This is your weekly dose of all things Nintendo. My name is Gemma, and joining me this week, I have the one and only Trev. Welcome back, Trev.
It literally is the one and only this week. We'll have to see without Kirk here if I really am the one with all the answers, or
Yeah, yeah.
maybe I'm more like Homer reading Man magazine, snappy answers to stupid questions.
Exactly. No, it's great to have you back. Kirk's off this week, so yeah, just the two of us. And that means you can insert, I don't know, 72% more Simpsons references. So
Already off to a good start here. So
yeah, exactly, exactly. But we've got a big show again. We have a lot to discuss. There's just been so much happening week to week. I find, in terms of the news, just the internet goes a bit crazy every week with something new and different. So this week we're going to talk. Well, first of all, we're going to go into Echoes of Wisdom because that's coming out this week. So we're very excited for that one. We're going to give our final kind of thoughts and hopes for that one before we get to play it for real. Then there's been some, I guess, a little bit of controversy around some infringements, as well as some pretty detailed Switch 2 leaks. So before we get to that, though, let's start with Echoes of Wisdom, which comes out 26th of September. So that is this week. And I think it's Friday, right? That's Friday the
just a few days away. Yeah,
Yeah, so we're super excited. I know you've
is
got
it
it.
or is it Thursday?
Sorry, my bad. It
Twenty
is a Thursday. We had
third.
this
Yeah,
it's 26th. We had this whole thing last week about the days of the week, and I know why. I don't
I
know why.
remember.
Some games come out on Friday. That seems to be the most typical day, but then others, like this one, randomly come out on a Thursday. Is it because it's a bigger game? I don't know. Anyway, the point is we're excited. I wondered if you had any thoughts, Trev, about, I guess, final expectations or hopes, or do we want to speculate as to how well it might be received? Obviously, we haven't tried the game. We weren't at PAX West. We haven't had a chance to play the what I guess is called the demo. It's not a freely available demo, but it was at events like PAX West. So we're coming into it a little bit blind. We've only seen what everyone else has seen in terms of the trailers. What are you thinking? Are you hoping for something pretty special? How do you feel?
Well, I'm going to enjoy it no matter what,
Hmm.
but I'm looking at it from the perspective of the almighty dollar, right, or the almighty dollar,
Yeah.
because you know the closest comparison is Link's Awakening, right? And
Hmm.
last we knew, which was at the end of 2022, it was listed at 6.5 million. So here we are, almost 2 years later. That's probably well over 7 million. And I
Mm.
was wondering, is this game going to match that? And I don't think it will. I think it'll either surpass it by a fair margin or not be as good. And
Hmm.
there's a couple of reasons I think that. I think potentially it could find less of an audience, either because people don't click with Zelda in the lead. Maybe
Hmm.
they're used to Link swinging his sword, or maybe some of those elements, right? Like that we saw in Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom. Maybe people don't like that as much in a top down style.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, could Echoes of Wisdom wind up like Skyward Sword, in the $4 to $5 million range? Maybe. But I
Mm.
also think it could sell even better than Link's Awakening because it's sort of like a best of both worlds, right? That top down style with the
Mhm.
creative aspects of the 3D game. And of course, now
Yeah,
your Switch install base is even bigger. You
that's
got
true.
over 140 million plus. It's launching alongside a Switch Lite, which of course is when the Switch Lite debuted, it launched alongside Link's Awakening same day. So there's
Ah,
precedent for that. And, the collectors are going to like that. I mean, so
mm.
I could see it going either way. I know
Yeah, okay.
that's kind of all over the map. So no matter what happens, I'm probably going to be right,
Yeah.
unless it does match.
True, true. You're kinda hedging your bets a little bit there, which is fine.
Yeah, but I mean, there's so many elements, right, that could go either way. You just don't know how people are
Yeah,
gonna react.
that's so true. Yeah, I completely agree. I think they're very good points. We know it looks lovely, of course. Like you said, it's based on that Link's Awakening style that we already know and love. So from an aesthetic perspective, I think there won't be any issues at all. And the trailers show off how beautiful Hyrule looks, and these games come with a new kind of a gimmick, I suppose. Like when Link can merge with paintings, for example. Tears of the Kingdom had the creative building aspect. This one has a bit of that also, but it's got a twist. It's Zelda, and she can just, instead of gluing things together, like fusing them, she's just creating them with her wand, with the tri wand. Is that what it's called? And use them to, navigate the world and obviously, solve puzzles, which is really cool. And these games are always about the puzzles as well. Like that's a strong part of the series. So that if that's something that players resonate with, have always resonated with in terms of the puzzle aspect, the dungeons, etc., this will speak to them, I think. So hopefully, yeah. I mean, I hope the second version of what you said is right, where it does do better.
I
Um,
hope so. Yeah, I hope so too. I think well a lot of the tell for it might be how well that the new Switch Lite does. Because I feel like,
mm, mhm,
yeah, there's people who are holding out for Switch 2, but at the same time, it's like, the collectors, they're gonna
mm,
scoop it up. And I was looking at the numbers. Switch Lite is only a fraction of the Switch sales, right? But by the same token, I think it was almost 25 million. Imagine if the
right.
Wii U had that. They would have killed to have 25 million. So that's a
Yeah.
big number. And
Mm.
I have a feeling, my gut tells me the Switch Lite sales are really going to jump. And I suspect people who are going to pick that up are obviously picking the game up too. So
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Very good
I,
insight. See, this is what we love you for, Trev. You have the numbers, you have the data.
sometimes, yeah. I do wonder, Gemma, when you were
Mhm.
talking, and I'm not sure if we've mentioned this before when we were talking about the game, but with the creative aspects in the Triwand and all that, I hope the menu is easy to navigate because, like in Tears of
Mm.
the Kingdom, if you were looking to attach things to your arrows, that menu
Yeah.
was just one long bar. So I'm really hoping they have a good user interface for this one.
Yeah, yeah, definitely we've definitely spoken about the Tears of the Kingdom Arrow interface before. That was a source of frustration for all of us, I think. I would just go with the closest one I could find because when you're looking for something specific, it was ridiculous. You're like, "Where is it? I don't even know." Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
no,
hope
that's a
they
really good
learned from
point.
that.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, exactly. It looked like, I think from memory in the trailer, did it bring up just a bit of a it was like it wasn't just an overlaid kind of long bar or anything, it was more like a whole menu where you would choose from a grid-based kinda list, was that right?
It looked like, from what I remember from the trailer anyway. I'm not sure I actually watched the last trailer because I heard it kind of showed a little more than maybe I wanted to see, but
It does,
at
yeah.
least the initial trailer, I think it was kind of like in the upper corner maybe. Like it looked like
Mm,
it kind of just froze the action temporarily. So
yeah, I think so. Do you wanna speculate on who the villain is, or you just think it's a new character? We don't really have enough evidence to say.
yeah, I don't know. I will just say this,
Mhm.
and it's kind of fresh in my mind because we've been replaying some of the Zeldas to kind of get ready for this. So we just went back to complete more of Tears of the Kingdom, like
Mm,
shrines we missed, things like that. But
yeah.
I hope if it is Ganon, they actually refer to him as Ganon because
Mhm.
I was getting ready to play the drinking game. Every time they said Demon King, I was going to take a drink, and I would have been sloshed because nobody, for whatever reason, in Tears of the Kingdom wanted to say the name Ganon. It was all
What?
Demon King, Demon King, Demon King, and it's like, no, he's got a name, Don't give him the title of king. Like he's this great guy. He's the baddie. Give him the
Yeah.
name Ganon. I mean,
Yeah,
so I hope I
interesting.
hope we get to hear, if it is Ganon. I hope we get to hear
Yeah.
him as that.
That's a good point, yes. Was it a bit like, Voldemort, like, "He who should not be named" kinda thing? Where they couldn't say it? They couldn't bring themselves to say it because it was so scary, or they just it was a respect thing, like, they actually were like, "Oh," they were in awe of him, and he's the Demon King.
I don't think so. I don't know why. I don't know who was responsible for the
Hmm.
writing the narrative, but it just got ridiculous. Certain conversations, certain cutscenes were
Mm.
like I was looking at Jen and I'm like, did they forget his name? Like, so,
Yeah.
but it may not
He's
be
always
Ganon. I mean, it could be
yeah,
what, like Vadi or something,
yeah.
or um, I don't know.
Would you like to see an old villain return that might be slightly more obscure? Would that be fun?
Yeah,
Or yeah?
I'm all for fresh elements. I think
Mm.
the idea of Ganon always kind of being a presence in every generation or every timeline, I think does get a little overplayed. So I'd all be for
Mhm.
something new because for me, um, well, I mean, it's going to work either way, right? The gameplay is the main thing,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah.
I'd like to see something fresh. How about you?
Yeah, I feel like it's not gonna be Ganon just because and I don't know, it could be misleading, but the very first trailer, showed Link fighting Ganon. And then I think they both got sucked into the void. So I feel like it's not his doing, unless he's accidentally done something, or it's backfired or whatever. But I feel like there's another entity. I don't think Link's gonna be working with Ganon. I don't think it's gonna go to that extent. I don't really think I want to see them have a truce. Zelda's not gonna rescue Ganon and then they work together. Do you think? Oh, that would be weird, I think, for all these years.
Yeah, oh man, we'd have
I
to get
mean,
into some kind of weird multiverse then, where
yeah,
there's like one
yeah.
incarnation of Ganon who's good. I don't know. That might
I
be a little
mean,
much.
yeah, because Bowser and Mario help each other out from time to time, but that kinda works. I feel like it's comical when they do it, and Bowser is he's such a not cheesy, but he's such a big villain, big bad villain who's like comically villainous, whereas Ganon is just pure evil. Like, he's just
Yeah.
yeah.
I think that's the key. I think comic. Like, I mean, that's
Mm.
why, like, on The Simpsons, Nelson and Bart's dynamic work because, like, half the episodes he's a bully, and then the
Yeah.
other half they're kind of friends,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah. It's
he's
true.
just a
Mhm.
humorous guy, so you accept it. But like you
Mhm.
said, he's not a humorous guy.
No.
He's a baddie through and through.
Yeah, so I think keep him a baddie, hopefully. It's a bit late now, Nintendo, so if don't take my advice. It's obviously done, it's written, it's out there. But that's what I'm hoping, yeah, I'm hoping it's a new villain, something just different for Zelda to combat. I think that'll be cool for her to have a new enemy to face. Link has always fought Ganon. Zelda's always there, of course, and we've had her in various forms and played as her even previously, but this is her story. So let her deal with something kind of new and unique, I think would be cool from my perspective.
Mm, I
Of course,
concur.
yeah. But either way, yes, like you said, we'll be playing it, we'll be enjoying it. 99% sure it's going to be fun. It's just how does it resonate with the fans and how many copies will it sell? We are at a very different point. Like you said, there's many more Switches out there now, which is a good thing, but also we're at the very end of the Switch's life cycle, which might work against it. But Zelda games have, and this is another data thing that you'll probably know better than I than I know, Trev. But Zelda games tend there's a precedent almost for Zelda games releasing at the end of a cycle of a system, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think back to like with the GameCube Twilight Princess, that was like the last
Mm,
big release. Majora's
mhm,
Mask on the 64. That was one of the last big releases. So
mhm.
it's not unheard of. Skyward Sword on the Wii was
That's
kind of
right.
one of the
Mhm.
last big releases too. So
Yeah, mhm.
um,
So it's
yeah, I guess it
interesting.
all depends on how much people are ready to move on. But of course, presumably, the Switch 2 is going to be backwards compatible. So I mean,
Yeah,
don't let that be a factor. If you want to play the game, play the game.
absolutely. Yeah, and we're still, we're not even at announcement stage yet, let alone release. So, and yeah, if it's not backwards, that would be ridiculous. It has to be backwards compatible. So I don't think that should stop players. If you're listening, let us know what you think. Are you excited? Are you picking up day one? We want to know what your story is with Echoes of Wisdom and who you think the main villain might be. Those sorts of things. Let us know. We'd love to hear from you. Let's move on to well, slightly related. There's a sweepstakes that's been launched by Nintendo for my Nintendo. Do you want to tell us a bit about that, Trev?
Yeah, I'll tell quickly. I just noticed it. It just launched, well, yesterday at the time we're recording this, but a few days
Mm.
ago. from when this
Ah,
will
yeah.
launch, and
Yes.
it's a little sweepstakes prize pack that has um, like some water bottles and a backpack. But the big thing, it looks like it's got this big wall tapestry or tapestry. I'm not actually sure how people say that.
I say tapestry, but, I say things differently to you a lot of the time in
Mm.
Australia, so yeah.
Well, we got listeners all over, so I'm sure I said it right for some people.
Yeah.
But yeah, 60 by 40. So that'll look nice. I never win these contests, but you can actually do up to 5 entries. Normally, you have to. I think they top you at 3 if you cash in platinum points. So if you have
Yeah,
platinum
right.
points that are getting ready to expire, I'm sure you do. Go ahead and
Yeah.
enter. It looks like they're running it for quite a while anyway.
Yeah, awesome. Definitely go in for that one. That's very cool indeed. Thank you, Trev. Now we'll move into something a bit more controversial, which is we all
Mhm.
remember Palworld, I think. This was just a couple of days ago. This started trending, and it's an interesting timing. So what happened was Palworld released. I think it was back in February of this year. It was earlier this year. A very popular game, but obviously there was some comparisons with Pokemon. Very, very closely
A
resemble
few.
Pocket Monsters. Yeah. And we all thought Nintendo would do something about it. They kind of made this really vague statement at the time, like, "Oh, we'll look into it and, react as necessary." So now Nintendo and the Pokemon Company together are filing a lawsuit for copyright infringement. So it's an interesting one. I see a lot of kind of backlash saying Nintendo is being petty, and that they're I think the copyright part of it is or the infringement is to do with the throwing of a ball rather than the look of the monsters themselves. What I wanted to say is that I think Palworld the reason I think Nintendo is doing this is and Pokemon Company is because when you take something that looks very similar to something else and do something different with it, it's reputational, like it ruins the reputation of the original thing. So from that perspective, I can see why Nintendo would be protective and the Pokemon Company. Because if you take these cute Pokemon and put them into a game with guns, Pokemon aren't about shooting. They're not about violence. Nintendo's not about violence. So I can understand why Nintendo would be upset. I know a lot of people were thinking that's, like I said, petty and leave it alone. Nintendo is against indies and all this sort of thing, which doesn't ring true at all. We know Nintendo supports indies a lot. So that's ridiculous. But also, I feel like we just don't know the details. Nintendo is filing this lawsuit. We can speculate on what the terms are, but really it's for the courts to decide. It's for the lawyers to negotiate whatever it is. What do you think, Trev? I'm interested in your thoughts.
Well, first of all, I think you're absolutely right, Gemma. We don't know enough details, and of course, the internet is quick to react before they have an informed opinion. So that's not out of the
Mhm.
ordinary. But to start, as far as Nintendo taking this down the legal avenue, I think maybe people don't realize that with intellectual property and things like that, it's not like Nintendo can pick and choose what they want to enforce
Mm,
because as
mhm.
soon as they let one of these sneak by, then that establishes a precedent. So
Yeah,
if another game copies them and they go to court, they'll be like, well, you know, look at Exhibit A here. They didn't
yeah,
address that in the court, and that's just as bad. So it's not like they have a choice. It's like they got to either be
mm,
all in or not at all. So I can't blame
yeah,
them for that. Now, as far as this specifically, and I don't know Pal World that much. I haven't played it. Maybe somebody who knows it better can leave us a comment. But
mhm,
it's reading over the thing. What struck me is it wasn't, and you alluded to it too with the maybe the throwing mechanic. It wasn't so much like the specific designs of the monsters, but it was a like a specific technology. Because it's a
mm.
patent thing infringement.
Yeah, yeah,
So what does that mean? I don't know. I do find it odd though that um, when the company was addressing this, their statement didn't really read like a denial. It just like, oh well, which patents is it? That
yeah,
doesn't strike me as very convincing. And of course, they haven't been right. I mean, anyone who can say Pokemon wasn't a main inspiration with a straight face is not somebody I'm going to think of as forthcoming, because
Yeah.
it's clear most of these monsters are a hodgepodge of different Pokemon designs. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no doubt there. So um, I trust I trust the courts will do their. I don't want to say I trust they'll do the right thing, because I don't want to paint them with a broad stroke, but I feel like
Mm,
Nintendo isn't going to pursue this approach unless they've crossed all their T's and dotted all their I's. So I
yeah.
don't think it's looking good for Palworld.
Yeah. No, I agree, and I think that's why it's taken this long. I mean, February to September is a long time. Nintendo didn't jump the gun. They kind of did it properly. I think then that's why they couldn't, even though the monsters do look very similar, I don't think they had the right kind of whatever legal blah blah terms. They couldn't legally pursue them for that for whatever reason. What I don't know. Maybe patents don't exist for that, or maybe it was just different enough, or maybe you're allowed to be inspired by design, character design. Maybe that's okay. I don't know. Anyway, they obviously need they yeah, I think your point about them being all in is very good because you're right. If they don't, then everyone's going to do it. And that's, like I said, a reputational risk for them. Nintendo and the Pokemon Company have been around for a long time since the 90s. Sorry, Nintendo's obviously been around a lot longer than that, but the whole Pokemon thing has been around since the 90s. And it's, it is what it is. People love it for what it is, and it's not gonna change in terms of suddenly they're gonna be shooting things with guns in the Pokemon sphere, so, yeah. Anyway, it's a bit controversial. I hope they sort it out.
I will just add too, even if they're not addressing in the courts the similarities of monster designs, it's
Mhm.
not going to do do the makers of this game any favors.
Mm.
Even if they're simply looking at a patent infringement, you know, judges are humans, juries are humans. However, it's going to work. People are going to look, and it's going to show that yeah, okay, this Pokemon's clearly an inspiration. So at what
Yeah.
point did you stop? If you're willing to copy these designs, are you willing to copy technology? So I
Yeah.
think
That's
it's
true.
yeah, I just think it's not looking good.
No. Yeah, exactly. Very interesting story. We'll see what unfolds, but it's these things take a long time. I think there was even news during the week about a couple of other kind of Pokemon clone type fan base things that had recently been kind of shut down or taken offline, things like that. So these things take a very long time to settle, which means we might not see any results for a little while. But yeah, it is what it is. Let us know what your thoughts are on the situation. It's a very interesting one. Yeah, obviously Palworld is very popular. It looks like we saw the trailer back in February when we talked about it on the show. It does look cool. It's a very different
Yeah.
take on the whole thing. And it does look like you can't see it and not think of Pokemon. You just can't. It's just impossible. It just
I mean,
blatantly.
even me, who's only played a few Pokemon games, like
Mm.
instantly, I see it. I'm like, all right, they took like Pokemon A, Pokemon B, and kind of smushed them together. Like, it's it's uncanny.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
simply can't be a coincidence. And I feel like if they would have been forthcoming and been like, yeah, absolutely, it was a main inspiration.
Mm.
People might not have, but to deny it and say no, not really, then you're hoping your audience is stupid
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
naive, and it's not going to work. And certainly, it's not going to work in court.
Mm, mhm. Yeah, exactly. Well, the other big thing that happened during the week was there was a flurry of images posted for the Switch 2, which just came out of nowhere. I think it was it from I feel like there was a China, related leak or something. I don't know how China was involved, sorry, but that's where I feel like I read, someone had access and they released these images. We don't know if this is true. Obviously, this is our, disclaimer here. Nothing's been announced by Nintendo. What did you think of the images though, Trev? Did you think this could be true? Because they were very Switch-like. Like, they looked like the Switch, just very much kind of thinner and longer and maybe a bit bigger. What did you think about all this?
Um, I okay. Let me take a breath here. I
Sure.
think it originated what on Reddit, which
Yeah, I think so.
I don't really do Reddit. Um,
Mhm,
I caught a fleeting glimpse, but I really wasn't interested
mhm,
in seeing it. I did kind of read on it a little bit just because it is news, but I feel like you remember The Simpsons when they were trying to figure out who was going to star as Radioactive Man and comic book guys like alt dot
yeah.
nerd dot obsessive and the guys under the casting table with the stethoscope. I feel like
Yeah.
that's how people are with Switch 2, and it's like, first of all, this person obviously wasn't authorized to share it, and I feel like people who are really invested in this, not simply
Mm,
from like a journalistic perspective reporting news, but really, you know, buying into this. Why are you so impatient? It's
yeah,
coming.
yeah,
We
mhm.
got plenty of big games still to come on the original Switch. It's like, and I think back, it's one thing if this was the 90s and all we had were magazines that come to our mailbox every other month.
Yeah, yeah,
But now we're in the internet where news is instantaneous and a lot of
mhm,
news is from sketchy sources. A lot of news is designed just to get clicks.
yeah,
I might be in the minority, but this didn't interest me a heck of a lot. Not that I'm not interested in Switch 2. Obviously,
mm,
I am,
yeah.
but yeah, I'll
No,
leave it at
I
that
can
for the moment.
yeah, no, that's I mean, I agree, honestly. I don't know I definitely don't want to see it before Nintendo announces it because I think they'll do it properly, they'll give us all the specs, they'll showcase it in some sort of video trailer, or they'll talk about it with games. I want it done properly, and I want it it's fun to speculate, of course, but it's getting a bit ridiculous, and when you see these images and my friend sent them to me, I didn't even see it myself until my friend just texted it to me. He's like, "Oh, have you seen this?" I'm like, "What? No." I don't know. And is it any more real than anything else we've seen in the last 12 to 18 months? People have been talking about this for a while now. Don't know,
I was
honestly.
thinking back to remember when the Switch was known as the NX, and
Mhm.
they showed a mock-up of it. It looked like a I don't know, it looked like a controller, like kind of phone hybrid. It looked nothing like the Switch, but people were
Mm.
so, you know, in love with the idea and like, yeah, this is it. This is legit. It's always kind of that angled shot, kind of like a
Yeah.
trying to capture
Yeah.
Bigfoot or something.
Yeah.
And the majority of these leaks never pan out. I mean, that's the reality.
Yeah, that's
We're always
true.
focused on the one that's right, and you forget the 99 that were
Yeah.
not even close. So,
Yeah, and I mean, the only positive to take from it is that people are excited, at least. We want the Switch too, which is good. So Nintendo,
mm,
I think we said last week, leaving it this long, we thought might have been bad for them, but now it seems to be actually working in their favor because everyone is so excited. I think when it actually does happen, people, I mean, you know, hopefully if it's this, we know it's probably just going to be an enhanced Switch. It's not going to be something completely different. Probably we don't really know, but that's what we're thinking. Um,
mm.
People will react positively, and it'll do well because the Switch is such a hard act to follow. How else can Nintendo do it? Well, this kind of stalling just builds that hype and that momentum. So hopefully that's working from a marketing perspective. Yeah. That's the only kind of positive I can think. That people are so excited that they make up these pictures and rumors just because they want the clicks, like you said, it is a bit kinda dirty in that respect, but people are talking about it. So, hmm.
Yeah, and I mean, hopefully that enthusiasm carries over to when it's announced proper. Because the
Mm.
last thing Nintendo wants is like a Wii U scenario where people are confused and like, wait, is this a tablet for the original Wii? Is
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
exactly.
so they want to make
I
sure everybody's on the same page. So,
Yeah, and like you said, the internet is so fickle, and the positive stuff about the Switch 2 and everyone wanting it, and then now everyone's very negative about this lawsuit. Echoes of Wisdom is releasing. I probably, if I was them, I wouldn't have done the lawsuit the week of Echoes of Wisdom launching, but maybe they had no choice. But the Switch 2 stuff is all very positive. I just, it's such a, how things can just change in a second. I just don't want that to happen to Nintendo. And I'm going back a little bit to the lawsuit now, but do you know what I mean? Like Switch 2, the momentum is so strong and everyone's very excited, but it just takes this one thing, this lawsuit, to kind of flip everyone on what they feel about something. I don't want everyone to turn on Nintendo and start hating them, like like they did with celebrities. I suppose I'm thinking of more than a company, but also with companies.
Yeah,
But I just, yeah,
I hear
it's a
you.
worry.
I I'm not overly concerned. Well, for two reasons. First of all, Nintendo, this isn't their first court case,
True, true.
and I feel like any bad will may vanish. Let's presume Nintendo wins their lawsuit, which my gut tells me they will. I think the ill will vanish, and then at that point, people will be championing Nintendo, like, yeah, way to protect, your things, and then the criticism will turn to developers not being original. It's like
Mm,
don't clone something, do your own thing. But also, what we're reading and what we're hearing is is really probably a small, group. The
mm,
real Nintendo enthusiasts, those who either work in the industry like us, or those who are, big enthusiasts, those who have a real stake in gaming for their personal lives, their social activities. The casual gamer, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I don't think that's a bad term. Is not going to let this lawsuit stop them from picking up Zelda. Your
yeah.
average Joe might not even know about this lawsuit because for us
True.
it's big news, but for them it's
Mm,
like a blip on the radar.
yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. That is a good point. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying and bringing me back down to earth, Trev.
well, I hear you though, because it's hard because we're like in a bit of an echo chamber, right? It's like,
Yeah. Yeah. Mhm.
everywhere we're looking, everyone we're hearing from is talking about this, and
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. Yeah,
we just got to
exactly.
wait for the next big news. I mean,
Yeah.
the cost of the PlayStation Pro or whatever, there's something going to come up that's going to
Yeah.
change the
Yeah.
dynamic.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Well, that was an excellent discussion on the news of the week, and let's move on to the games that we're playing because we have a nice healthy list as always. And I wanted to start with the 4 new Super Nintendo games that recently launched on the Nintendo Switch Online. I love it when Super Nintendo games drop because that's probably one of is my favorite system. It's definitely one of my favorite systems. I love the Super Nintendo because I grew up with it. It's got so many good memories for me. These games, I had not even heard of 3 of them. So, they're a little bit obscure, and so that's Battletoads Double Dragon, Big Run, which is a racing game, Cosmo Gang the Puzzle, which I believe is a Famicom-only title, Big Run may also have been a Famicom-only title, actually, and Kunio-kun no Dodgeball Doyo Zenin Shugo, if I'm saying that correctly. You can probably tell
Sounds
it's
good to
very
me.
very Japanese. So between the 2 of us, we have played 3 of these, since they've hit the Switch. Did you wanna start with your impressions of Battletoad Double Dragon?
Well, first of all, I'm curious. You said it might be your favorite system, the Super Nintendo. What's it?
Ah,
What's it running up against?
well, I mean, the DS/3DS. I played that
Mm,
a lot too.
I hear
But
you.
this yeah, for nostalgic reasons though, Super Nintendo was definitely like, Mario Kart, Super Mario World, Legend of Zelda, the first kind of 16-bit version of that. I have so many memories of things, even just things like Mortal Kombat, like Mortal Kombat 2. That was the first time Nintendo kind of got those kinds of things. Um, I had a lot of games on the Super Nintendo, and it
Yeah.
was my childhood. Like I was in my what kinda early teens or something like that, middle school, whatever. Um, yeah, so I spent a lot
Middle
of time on
school
it.
or primary school or semester or
I don't know, honestly. But yeah, so I have a lot of memories, but the DS did get a lot of love from me also, so I carried that with me all the time. I had a lot of games again for that one. A lot of my
yeah.
friends had it even as a young adult. We all had, DSs and 3DS, well, probably didn't all have 3DSs. I had a 3DS. But that's when I really got into things like Fire Emblem, and Mario was back, New Super Mario Brothers. That was a new thing. Like it came back for the DS. So lots of good
Where's
memories of
Kirk?
that too.
You just mentioned Fire Emblem. We need him
I
here.
know. I know. Yes, thinking of you, Kirk. So probably maybe I guess I could say my favorite console is the Super Nintendo and my favorite handheld is the DS/3DS.
Uh, Very
Yeah,
fair.
maybe. Yeah. What about you?
Okay, but yeah, no. Well, I kind of feel like you do, except substitute the NES, and
Ah,
but
yes.
keep the 3DS because the 3DS right plays DS games too, and
Yeah,
I
true.
just
Yeah.
I love their libraries. I love Street Pass. That was such a thrill.
Mm. Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
Not to go back to Switch 2 rumors, but I would love if something like Street Pass came back because I mean that worked great on the 3DS and that sold what like
Yeah.
77, 78 million. You know,
Yeah.
imagine the Switch at 150 million plus
Yeah.
with Street Pass. You'd be getting hits all over the place. So,
Oh, that'd be so cool. I have seen people
mm,
talk about that online, that they want it, so, hey, you never know. You never know,
yeah,
right?
I
It
do
would be
too.
cool. Mm.
Anyway, but back to your original question, I think was about these these games.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I played two of these. I played a little bit of Battletoads Double Dragon, which I think might have originally been on the NES, and then they did a 16-bit version. I'm not 100% sure
Ah.
on that, but um, it's one of those. I thought it was going to be because I had never played it. I thought it was going to be oh, it's
Mm.
got both games in the title, like a 50-50 mix. It really is a Battletoads game
Mhm.
with the Double Dragon guys. So it
Right.
didn't feel the way I was expecting. Like they just they threw the enemies at you immediately. Like it took me a
Mm.
probably a good 30 seconds to get a punch off. I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. So, which isn't surprising because Battletoads was notoriously difficult.
Mm.
It's kind of
Mhm.
what they prioritize. So I feel like this is a game I would really have to practice with
Yeah.
to get any good. But it's cool for people with nostalgia for it. And again, I'm happy to see these rare developed games return to Nintendo consoles because it's been a while, right?
Yeah, I always forget that they did Battletoads. Hmm. I haven't tried this one
Yeah.
either. Not back in the day and not now. This one, yeah, it was a 1993 title apparently on the Super Nintendo. Yeah, interesting. Do you think
I think it needs two players because
Yeah, okay.
I think with two players I'd have more of a chance.
Yeah, yeah.
But I just played it on my own. It's not the type of game my wife would is really into.
Yeah,
And
fair enough.
yeah, kicked my butt, but
Mm,
don't let that sour you because I'd never played it. So
yeah, yeah. Exactly. And now the other 3 are all Super Famicom titles. So I think they from what I know, they have not been released in the West, until now, or maybe I don't know if they've been on Virtual Console in the past or not, but I certainly hadn't heard of all 3. Neither of us have tried Big Run yet, but that is a racing game, like I said. But I did try Cosmo Gang the Puzzle, which, now it's completely in Japanese, okay? And I jumped straight in. It's a bit like a Tetris style, like blocks are falling, but they're all the same shape. They're all kind of
hmm,
L shapes, I guess, and they're composed of little pink aliens and like bricks, I guess, and it alternates between how many there are. Like sometimes there's 3 bricks, sometimes there's 2 aliens in a brick, for example. I didn't know what on earth I was doing, so I thought it was Tetris, and I had to just make a line, and then I thought maybe I have to match aliens, like maybe I have to put aliens together and they disappear, but no, they don't. Every now and then you get an arrow that falls with your blocks. And the arrow, I don't really understand how it works, but it points in a certain direction, one of the 4 directions, up, down, left, or right. And if when it lands, it shoots off in that direction and gets rid of any aliens that it touches until it disappears. So the idea is when you get a full line of bricks, they will disappear, a la Tetris. So, a full line will just vanish and then the blocks fall down a little bit. And this arrow gets rid of the aliens. And I guess the idea is to get points and not fill up your screen with blocks, and then it's game over. So it's hard, actually. It's really hard.
hmm,
So, and
sounds
I
it.
don't, yeah. The aliens very much remind me of that 90s arcade game. Did you have that in the US where the aliens kind of popped up and you had to hit them like a whack-a-mole type of situation? Did you have that? I don't know, it was very
Uh,
big here.
it was a wait. It was an arcade game, or was it
Yeah,
like
yeah,
a
yeah,
whack a mole,
arcade.
like a physical
Uh,
toy?
like by arcade, I mean it was at the arcade. Like, as in you'd go to an arcade, you'd put your
But it was
toy.
a physical toy, like a whack-a-mole, like tangible, like you
Yeah,
pick up a
yeah, a
mallet and
physical thing. You had to hit the aliens popped out. I think
hmm,
there were 5 aliens, they popped out and you had to hit them. They look like that.
doesn't
I don't know if
ring
they
a
are.
bell.
And I thought it was called Cosmo. Maybe I should have looked up before the show, but if you're in Australia, you might know what I'm talking about. It's even they have brought it back. I've seen it at the arcade semi recently, like in the last kind of year or 2. Um, yeah, so I feel like it might be related. I don't know. I'm
Huh.
gonna look that up maybe while while we talk about the next one. So the next game is sorry, the final one, isn't it, is Kunio-kun, which I won't say the whole thing again, but it's dodgeball. Now, I only had one go of this. I know you've had a bit more experience, so you can talk about it a bit more, but my experience was I didn't know what on earth I was doing. So
Well, I hear you on that. It took me a while just to navigate through the menus because they are
Yeah. Yeah,
all
yeah, me too.
Japanese. I'm like, I want to play, but what's interesting is this dodgeball game is part of a series, and I recognized it immediately from the music, and of course that style, the uh, kunio kun. I'm not sure how you say that, but that was a style in those games like Super Dodgeball or River City Ransom, Crash and the Boys Street Challenge, Nintendo World Cup Soccer. Like there was a series that had those kind of chibi characters, and the original Dodgeball on the NES was one of my favorites. In fact, you can play that on Switch Online. They also have an arcade archives version. There's a DS version I have, going back to my love for the DS. So it's cool to play another game in that series that I didn't really have familiarity with. As far as the actual gameplay, it felt a little sluggish to me, but it might just be from muscle memory with the NES game, playing it so much as a kid and even nowadays. I think I actually have a retro review of it when it came out on the Virtual Console on the Wii U. Um, I don't know.
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure I
Yeah.
did. You might have to check that out. But it's cool to be part of a series. But yeah, I had a hard time navigating to get to the point of playing, and then it felt sluggish to me. But I have to again. It's sort of like Battletoads Double Dragon. I can't really judge the first time I played it because I gotta learn the controls, right? I gotta
Yeah.
figure out
Yeah,
how to
yeah.
pull off those power shots, right? Because
Mhm.
that's the thing with these dodgeball games. It's not just they have each character would have like these novelty shots. You build up speed, and you could throw the ball and send the other guy clear across the screen. And
Yeah.
it
Yeah,
certainly
exactly.
looked good. It looked good, which I'm not surprised because it looked good
Mhm.
on the other systems, other versions. But yeah, I wish Nintendo when they put out these imports, I wish they had some kind of like localized manual or something just so you could get into them a little easier.
It is
But
hard. Yeah. I was
yeah,
the same with the menu as well. I just because it's obviously in Japanese, I don't I don't know. I don't speak Japanese or read Japanese. And the menu is very extensive. Like I'm just pressing buttons and it's like there's another menu, another menu. I don't even know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm selecting.
yeah.
It felt
Well, a
like
big part of the
a lot.
first game was like building your roster because you'd have
Mm,
like your three guys throwing the ball, and then your three guys on the opposite court, which are kind of like your I don't know dodgeball terminology, but they were like on the outskirts, kind of, and you could lay out which character you want in which spot, which is cool and gave the game some depth. But I don't know how I would have navigated that without. I felt like I sort of recognized what they were asking for, and I just kind of tap 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 because it's not like I'm going to try to work my way
yeah.
through all that text, which was
Yeah. Yeah.
undecipherable to me.
Yes, very interesting. Just back to Cosmo Gangs, I was wrong. It's not a whack-a-mole situation. It's a shooter. I found a video of it. It's the aliens are down the end of this line and they move towards you slowly, and you have to shoot them with like a laser gun, like a physical gun in the arcade. And when you
What's it
shoot
called
them, they
again?
go back. Cosmo Gang or Cosmo Gangs with an S. So this puzzle game, the one that's on the Switch Online now, is I don't know if it's based on the arcade game, but probably the arcade game is based on. I think there are other Super Nintendo or maybe even Famicom like NES games related to this series. I think it's a whole series in Japan. with these aliens. I think there's a shooter potentially, and there's this puzzle game. They also did this arcade game, which was localized, which is why I was able to play it in Australia. So I don't know if you had it in the US, but yeah, it's literally five pink aliens who move towards you slowly, and you have to keep them from getting to the end. Because when they get to the end, they grab a box and they run away with it. Like they take it back to the beginning, and then game over. And you get
Oh,
tickets. You know, the more you shoot, obviously, the more points you get, the more tickets you get. So it's one of those. That's what it is.
hmm,
So yeah, that's
interesting.
cool. And it was funny because I played this in the 90s, and like I said, I've seen it recently at the arcade, like, I brought it back. My son, who was watching me play this game, on the Switch Online said, "That looks like those aliens from the arcade game that you played." I'm like, "Wait, what?" Like, he recognized it, of all
That's
people,
pretty
and
neat.
I'm the one. Yeah. I'm like, "Oh,
Uh,
that's very observant of you. Good job," because 'Cause they're like little
yeah.
pink
Hey,
little aliens.
not to get off topic, but just out of
Mm.
curiosity, what's the arcade scene like in your neck of the woods? Like, do you
It's
have much?
yeah, it's good. We do. It's sort of there's a bit of a resurgence, I think. There's a lot of those ticket
Huh,
that they're almost a bit more like what they have and I don't know how this has been a thing in Japan for, but when I went to Japan, most of the arcade games that I saw were more like the toy, like you win prize type of games. So there's a lot of those
yeah.
now. It's like the claw machines, or you have to
Mm,
snip the like wire. You have to judge where the scissors or whatever they are, the clippers and if you get it right, it snips the wire and all these prizes fall down, like a whole heap of prizes, but it's very hard to get to actually time it just right. So there's a lot of those kinds of things. But there's also, Mario Kart is a thing now. Like, I mean, it's always been a thing, but I never played it in Australia at the arcade in the 90s,
mm,
but it's there now. Um, there's heaps of shooters. A lot of them are fun. Like there's a Nerf one, which is pretty fun. There's this alien thing. But yeah, there's a quite a few big arcades now, which is cool because they were huge in the 90s, and we used to go there on, like, a Sunday. They were, like 2 hours of all you can play for $20, and so we'd go for 2 hours,
nice.
play our little hearts out. They don't do that anymore. But yeah, it seems to be a mix of the prize things like the claw machines and the interactive ones like the basketballs or the throwing the ball thing, those kinds of games.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's a good mix. Yeah, so that's fun. It's usually pretty
that's cool.
busy. Yeah, we go maybe every month or so, when we're in the vicinity, we'll go play some games. Yeah. I like Mario Kart. It's nice to play something different. It's kind of easy, but it's fun. Different characters have like Pac-Man, for example, um,
Mm,
different items you can get. So it's a bit of a novelty to play it because it's just not what you see on the console version or even the mobile version. So that's nice. Yeah. So it's interesting. How
mm.
about you?
Um, yeah, there's not a whole lot like the the malls, which malls are dying anyway. Like the malls are
Mm.
half empty and full of older people who are just walking, which is fine.
Right.
I'm probably not far behind them, but they do have like small arcades, but like you said, it's a lot of like claw games or games to win, little plastic
Yeah,
trinkets.
yeah.
If you're fortunate, you'll find a good pinball machine or two, or like an air hockey table. There's one, I remember has like a Dance
Oh,
Dance
yeah.
Revolution game, which is cool. Or
Yeah, yeah.
if it's old school, you might find like a Galaga machine, Pac-Man tucked in the corner.
Oh, that's
But
cool.
if you want a good arcade, I have to go out of state. There's a
Mm,
good arcade in New Hampshire that's several
yeah.
floors, and it's also got like a bowling alley and mini golf. But they have a range of arcade games from like the '70s all up to today. So
Cool. That's awesome. We don't
yeah,
have any of the I don't see any of the retro ones in the ones I go to anyway, which is a bit of a shame. Yeah.
yeah, nothing like it was in the '90s.
Yeah.
Like the one
Yeah.
I was talking about, I'm like, oh sweet, they got the Simpsons arcade game and NBA
Yeah.
Jam and all these old school ones.
There is one place, yeah, and obviously we are off topic a little bit, but it's okay. And Kirk loves this. So if you're listening, Kirk, we're doing this for you because he said last week he loves it when we go off topic. There is a place near me. It's more like a bar slash restaurant, but it does have this whole section at the back that's got all these old school arcades like The Simpsons. I think it has TMNT maybe as well, which I used to love that one. Yeah, which is super cool to play those ones.
Yes,
Yes.
that's true. It's
So
funny you mentioned that Mario Kart one. I haven't played it, but I have seen it. There is a arcade not that far from here that has it, but it's like attached to like anytime we go there, we're going to see a movie. So it's
Yeah.
like at the movie theater, and it's like I never have played it because it's like, oh, I want to get our seats, I want to get popcorn, whatever.
Yeah.
So, but maybe next time I go there, I should finally check it out. I took some pictures of it, like just walking by, because I'm like, yeah, this
Mm.
looks cool, but
Yeah, it's fun, and it's 4 players, at least the one at my arcade is 4 players, so usually I jump on with the kids and we have a go. It's pretty fun, yeah. Like I said, it's different because it's somewhat easier, I think, than the Switch version, but it still has its challenges, and it's usually I think the races only have, like, maybe only 4 people in it in total. I think if you only have 2 humans, the other 2 are CPUs, I think. It's not like there's 8 or 12. I can't remember though, I could be
mm,
wrong about that. Anyway. Let's move on to some other games we're playing this week because we have 2 pretty good ones, I'd say, that we're excited to talk about. One for you, one for me. So I will start with Grapple Dogs Cosmic Canines, which did come out on the 12th of September. I'm reviewing this one. I've actually completed it. I'm very proud to say I've finished it. It's super, super fun.
congratulations.
Yeah. It's a platformer, also a shooter, kind of. It's, also just had to say it's currently 20% off until the 25th of September. So if you were interested, head on over to the eShop, I guess, and grab yourself a copy. It's 17.99 down to 14.39. It's a little bit of a discount there. Anyway, it's really fun. We found just before the show, we did review the first because this is a sequel. I wasn't 100% sure as I was playing it. It sounds like a sequel. Like the characters talk about kind of their previous adventure a little bit. So it seemed like it was another game. I wasn't aware of that. We did review the first game and we gave it a solid 9. So, Kaylin and our team reviewed it and really liked it. I am similarly impressed with this one. It is so, so fun. There are 2 dogs that you play as, and you alternate between them in various levels. So one level you're the main dog, and then in the other level you're this other dog. Luna is her name, and she's the first one. He's like this happy-go-lucky dog, and I think he's the star of the first game. So he's very happy, he's very positive, and then Luna is this, like, brooding kind of Wednesday Addams type of person who's, like, all dark and a little bit goth, I suppose. And she sports the gun side of things. They both have the grapple hooks. So the kind of gimmick is it's a platforming kind of experience. You're jumping on platforms, there's enemies to jump on or avoid or whatever. In Luna's case, you can shoot them. But there's also these blocks that you can grapple onto and you can swing and you have to collect carrots and use them to buy kind of upgrades and costumes. There's a whole lot of costumes to purchase, so collectibles are plenty. And there's also 3, um, what are they? Kind of shields or gems or something. There's like a special token you have to collect in every level. There's 3 of them, as well as a treasure chest, which has a hook, like a type of hook. You can customize your hook. So instead of like your grapple might be like a cross, like an X to start with. And then you can turn it into like a hamburger or a banana or something, which is cute. So there's a lot of collecting to do, which I super love as well. But the graphics are awesome. It's kind of that 16-bit style that I really, really enjoy. Hello, the Super Nintendo was my favorite system, so I really love the 16-bit style. The story is really good. There's a lot of cutscenes, no voice work, but they kind of have those little like noises when they're talking, if that makes sense. Like, and the different characters have
Yeah.
different noises. Yes, it's really cute. But there's heaps of story actually for a platformer. You control this little ship in between levels, and that takes you 2 levels. So you can kind of choose. It's a bit like Mario World in a way, not with the ship, but in that you can move to. Well, not Mario World. Mario World's kind of linear, but maybe Mario 3D World, where you get to choose which levels to go to on an overworld kind of situation. You can walk
Okay.
wherever. Yeah, like that. Even Mario Wonder, I guess, does that actually now. So yeah, you can choose which level to go to. You can tackle any or all of them. Some of them are like little mini levels where it's more like a race against the clock to collect all the carrots or to collect all the gems or to defeat all the enemies, whatever. And the faster you do it, the more points you get, kind of thing. So there's these little sub level, like mini game level type of things that are really fun. You have to get a certain amount of these, like, shield gem things to unlock this next area, which then usually has a boss fight, and the boss fights are really fun too. There's really nothing bad to say about this game. It's really fun. It's got some accessibility things as well to make it easier if you're struggling because it's pretty tricky at times. Like, there's a lot of kind of leaping and jumping and swinging, and the timing is very important. When you're in the air and there's no platform under you, you kind of can't fall, for example. It's pretty good with life systems. Like if you fall, it will just push you back a little bit in the level. So you have to go back to the beginning, for example. So that's not too punishing that way. You do lose some carrots when you die though, and it does have a health system. So you've got like 5 hits to start with, and it's actually pretty cute. There's like a paw, like a dog's paw in the top left corner, and each of those 5 kind of, what are they called? They're not fingers on a paw. What are they? Toes? I don't know. The 5 toes are alive, and then you can upgrade. Eventually, you get 2 paws, and then you've got like 6, 7, 8, 9, and then eventually you've got 10
I
lives. So
guess they're just toes, right? Is that what
yeah,
dogs
I guess
have?
so.
Like
Yeah, I guess so. Toes,
paws?
paws with
I don't
toes,
know.
claws, maybe. I don't know. Anyway,
I don't
so you
know
can
dog anatomy.
so you get more hits as you progress. You can unlock more hits. You get like 10 hits is the max, I suppose, like 2 paws, right? 5 on each. So when you get hit by an enemy, you just lose one kind of paw. Not lose a paw, that sounds bad, but you're like in the icon in the top, it kind of grays out. So you know you're down a hit. It's only when you fall that you have to kind of restart. But you do lose, if you lose all your hit points, then you do lose some carrots to respawn at a checkpoint, and they're pretty generous throughout the level. There's quite a few of those. The levels are so varied though. It's lovely. It's so good. There's like 5 worlds plus a bonus world, I think, at the end. Once you finish the game, you get this extra bonus world you get unlock. And there's like a fire world. It's very Mario. There's a fire world, there's an ice world, there's like this kind of nature, like grassy world. There's, your city world. And the premise is that you're traveling between dimensions. There's this big bad guy who's really actually a really big bad guy, who's really fun to beat as well. And he's trying to take over the whole kind of multiverse, and you jump from dimension to dimension to stop him. And each dimension is really interesting. That there's different creatures there. There's one where the frogs have taken over, and they're like this little army of frogs who are really kind of mean. So it's very creative, very very creative, and very interesting. Um, Highly recommended. If you're a platforming enthusiast like me, I think you'll get a real kick out of it. Give it a go. And like I said, sorry, I didn't finish that thought. The accessibility, if you're having trouble, you can turn on this kind of infinite jump. So, you can just, if you, like when you jump once, obviously you just jump once and then you land and that's it. But if you have the infinite jump on, you can press the jump button repeatedly and you can kind of fly through the level. I turned that on for parts of the game that I was struggling with, also because I'm reviewing it. I just wanted to kind of get through it so I could see the whole game. And you can switch it on and off easily, and you don't have to use it. You can jump once, or you can keep pressing jump. But it's just a nice little thing that makes it a bit easier because it can be quite challenging. So nice little touches there. Big fan. I'll be writing up my review soon. Probably not before this goes to air, but watch for it during the week, and you'll have my full thoughts. But yeah, any questions for me before we head on to your game, Trev?
Not a question, but I asked AI here what the toes on a dog's paw are called, and they say they're
Yeah.
called digits.
Okay.
They're called digits, and the
Yeah.
individual nails are claws. Dogs
Okay.
typically have 4 digits on each paw, and some also have a fifth digit called a dew claw on the front paws and occasionally on the back. So the more you
Oh,
know.
okay. Interesting, interesting. I love that. Thank you so much for keeping us in the know. You've heard it here first, folks. Dogs' paws
Mm.
have digits, so there you
Of
go.
course, I'm bringing on the apocalypse here, talking to AI, but well,
Yeah, yeah, don't
what
do
are you
it.
going to do?
Yeah. Anyway, let's move on to your game because you're playing something pretty cool as well.
Yeah, I've been playing for, gosh, maybe almost a week. Disney's Epic, actually not Disney's, just Disney Epic Mickey Refurbished,
Mhm,
which of course is a update of the Wii original, which is a game I rather liked, and this game is pretty good. I talked about it, I think, back early in the year. I think when they announced it on a Nintendo Direct,
mhm. They did, yeah.
and I was kind of getting into that, but now I've really been diving into it, and the embargo actually lifts the day. If you're catching this podcast right as it comes out, the embargo
Mhm.
just lifted this morning, the 23rd.
Right. Okay.
My review is not going to be up till tomorrow or till the 24th, which is the day it actually comes out.
Mhm.
But this one
Another
is really. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say another Tuesday game. Sorry. What's this Tuesdays? Sorry, keep
this
going.
this one, yeah. Well, any day is good. Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. I don't know if
Yeah?
they release games on Sunday, but
No.
um, not yet anyway.
Not yet.
This game's really speaking to me. Of course, it's a 3D platformer, and of course, I don't know how it's going to be received because there's no reviews yet, and of course, I don't look at reviews until I finish my own. But I
Mm,
could see how this could potentially be divisive because it's not an immediate type of gratification. I'd be curious. There is a demo. I don't know where the demo starts or how long it is, but this game is kind of slow in parts. It sets up the story, which of course has to deal with Mickey being in this realm of characters that have been forgotten over the course of time, and they're led by Oswald, the Lucky Rabbit, who was sort of Mickey before there was
mm,
Mickey. He was the
that's
face of
right.
Disney, and Mickey. It's not a spoiler because it's in the intro, but Mickey is messing around in classic like Sorcerer's Apprentice fashion, and he knocks over a paint thinner, and he ends up destroying parts of this world. So as you're navigating this kind of Tim Burton-esque like world, it's like, do you want to repaint it? Do you want to thin it out? There's opportunities for both, and there's a ton of collectibles, and the levels are huge. There's a real sense of scope. So that's why I say if you're the type who just wants to fly through a level, this game may not be for you because it's big, it's very vertical. There's a lot of looking around and being like, "Oh, how do I reach that area? Is there anything hidden behind that wall?" Which speaks to me because it's sort of that completionist leanings that we've talked about before.
Mm,
Um,
mhm.
which isn't the best when you're trying to review a game, but thankfully they sent this one early enough. I think I'll be okay. Hoping to
Yeah.
finish it this weekend. But yeah, a lot of stuff to collect. The world itself is just so fascinating. The detail, the attention to detail, seeing all these kind of relics of the past, even and not just in the media of like film and stuff. I even saw like kind of old Mickey games, like the Circus Keeper from the Super Nintendo. You could kind of find like buried like under some dirt, with the label
Cool.
worse for wear. But it's like little things like that. I just get a kick out of, and it's like, yeah, this is a world that, was already not thriving per se, but now Mickey's really kind of altered it. What's he going to do, you
Mm,
know, to fix it? How's he going to react when he meets these characters that, he hasn't seen in decades? And I really like it. It does control, I think, more intuitively than the Wii because there is camera control. Um, but it also does retain some of like the Wiimote features too. So I feel like it's the best of both worlds. I've mostly been playing it on the TV, even though I love handheld mode because this is the sort of game that really pops on a
mm,
big
mhm.
screen and in 1080 or more. So I'd recommend people who pick up the game play it that way and really be immersed in just kind of that Disney magic. But I like it a lot. I always feel a smidge guilty with these older games because here we are in late September. I'm thinking of late December when we talk about like our top tens of the year, and I'm
Mm,
like, what do I do with a game like Epic Mickey or a game like Beyond Good and Evil that I reviewed earlier in the year?
yeah.
A lot of my favorites are these old games that have just been redone. So I don't know, but this game's special for me, and I think if you're a patient type of player, I think you're really gonna enjoy this. But if you are the type that just likes to kind of speed run through a level, I can see why this wouldn't be for you.
Mm. Yeah, interesting. Apart from the, I guess, graphical enhancements and that camera that you mentioned, what's the other difference? Is there any other differences between this version and the original, or is it mostly just the aesthetics? Like it looks a lot more detailed and nicer.
Yeah, not really that I've seen. Um,
Mm.
it is just a coat of paint, no fun intended, because or pun intended, as Mickey's painting everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, the textures don't look as muddy. It's sharper. The art
Mm.
style always worked in this game though, so really, I feel like visually speaking, that's really all they could have done.
Mhm.
Um, obviously the control options I think are a big thing, and I think that'll attract some new players who were turned off by sort of um, the motion aspects of the Wii, using the Wiimote, because now you can just use the analog nubs, and it works pretty good. You know, I was wondering if it was going to be like a Skyward Sword case where I tried it out and I'm like, no, I missed the motion too much, but it hasn't
Yeah.
been the case. It works pretty good, and I guess my only, well, I shouldn't say my only, but my main gripe is it doesn't seem to have a save anywhere feature, which,
Uh-huh.
of course, if you're playing in handheld mode and are you sitting in a waiting room and you can only play for a few minutes, that could trip you up. But um, yeah, other than that, I think it's a great game, and it's one of those games that I feel like came out sort of later in the Wii's life and maybe got overlooked. Because by that
Mhm.
point in time, people had really given up on standard def visuals. They were all about HD, and I feel like the Wii kind of aged more rapidly later in its life in that regard. So it's nice to see Epic Mickey get the HD treatment. It's a game that deserves it, and I think it is a somewhat divisive game just from its structure, but I think it's special, and I'm very pleased. I'm liking it more than, because I always approach these remakes. Well, it's not even a remake, but I always approach these revisits with cautious optimism because I'm like,
Mm.
does it hold up the way I hope? But in this case, I think it's even better.
Yeah, that's good because it seems like the first one did fairly well. Like it sold 3 million or so, I think, and then the second one was not received as well for whatever reason. I wonder if they'll ever make a third one. Maybe if this one does well, they'll
Did Epic
yeah,
Mickey really sell that good? Huh? I'm kind of surprised. I wasn't
yeah,
sure it did. Maybe it was one of those games where the budget was so big it really needed to sell a
yeah.
ton to
That
recoup.
that might be across all consoles. Sorry, I'm not sure if that's the
Oh,
Wii
maybe.
specifically. Because I think it was released across. Let's see.
Yeah, it had PlayStation, Xbox, PC.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
um, there technically was a third Epic Mickey game on the 3DS. Uh, the
Ah,
name
okay.
escapes me. It was an early release, and it's very different, but I really liked it. Not a lot of critics did,
Mhm.
but I personally liked it a lot. I remember playing it a bunch, trying to 100% it, and
Oh,
I
is it
never
yeah,
Power
sorry.
of
Is it
Illusion. It
Power
is,
Illusion? Yeah. Yeah, I just found it as well, yeah. A spin-off.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
So
It keeps a lot of a lot of well, I'm not entirely sure where I'm going with this. It's still got the paintbrush mechanic. The cutscenes are sort of similar, but the world is different. It's more traditional versus Epic Mickey, which is like again like this kind of Tim Burton esque wasteland of forgotten
mm,
lore that you can revive or really destroy. I guess depending on the way you play, and that's another thing. I guess real quick because I know we're running out of time, but um, if I use paint thinner to like jump through a wall and find a hidden item, I'm always going to repaint it. I don't just leave it, which is time consuming.
yeah,
And
yeah.
potentially I could just leave it, but it's like, no, I want to leave this world looking better than when I got here because I'm the one who messed it up. So that's
Mm,
why I
mhm.
say not every gamer is going to want to play that way or find every trinket or explore every nook and cranny. But it's a game that's really the more you put into it, the more you get out of it.
Yeah, fair enough. No, that makes perfect sense. Listeners, if you're playing Epic Mickey Rebrush, well, you won't be playing it yet because it's not out yet. But if you're playing it this week, let us know if you're intending to play it. If you're a fan of the original or either of the sequels slash spin-offs, let us know because we'd love to know your thoughts. And also Grapple Dog, if you played the first one or the second one and have a similar experience to what we have in terms of being quite positive about it, do let us know. Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you, Trev. It's been a full show. And like you said, we're kind of out of time. Is there anything else you wanted to mention before we did close things off for the week?
Well, I know we often end the show talking about the magazine, and
Mhm.
I know people maybe are skeptical because every week we're like, oh, it's close, but the physical issues are done and in the mail. So hopefully you'll be getting them again. If you're catching this episode the day it comes out, hopefully it'll just be a few days from now. You'll be holding
Yeah,
the issue.
awesome. That's exciting. That's exciting. I definitely can't wait to see
Yeah.
it in print. Yes, we
And
worked
thanks
very
to
hard.
Kirk. He's
Yeah.
taken
Yeah.
over the shipping from me. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Thank you, Kirk. Is that why he couldn't be on the show tonight? Because he was too busy sticking Post-it, what do you call it, stamps onto
Oh,
envelopes?
maybe. Maybe.
If so, thank you,
Yeah.
Kirk.
We got to start planning the next one. That means
Yes,
like
I know,
really,
I
really
know.
planning it.
We do, we do, we do. But yes, thank you so much for joining me this week, Trev. Thank you, listeners, for joining us. Let us know your thoughts, what you're playing, what you want to hear from us on the show. We'd love to know your opinions. You can follow us on social media. We are at Pure Nintendo on Twitter/X. I'm not gonna let that die, my Twitter/X. I could just call it X. I think people are just calling it X now, but I just don't
I
like it.
don't know. I haven't heard a lot of. I still hear Twitter,
Yeah.
so
Well,
I don't know.
there's still tweets, I think, right? So tweets on X. Anyway, we're
Mm.
also on Mastodon and Blue Sky, and we have our magazine, as Trev mentioned. If you want to jump on board for the next issue, you can support us over at patreon.com/pure Nintendo. What else do I need to say? That's it. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, and we will see you next week. So until then, game on, everybody. Bye.
Take care, all.